What is your name, please?
My name is Sergeant George Harris.
My name is Sergeant George Harris.
My name is Sergeant George Harris.
Only one of these men is the real Sergeant Harris. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, star of the motion picture The Young Savages, Dina Merrill, Don Ameche, and Kitty Carlisle, on To Tell the Truth, with your host, Bud Collier.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome once again to Tell the Truth, brought to you this week by Anacin, the headache remedy with a special combination of ingredients to relieve pain, fight depression, calm jittery nerves. Anacin. Panel, good evening. Would you please open your affidavits and take out your affidavit cards for the first time and follow along as I read to you from this first one. I, Staff Sergeant George Harris, am a judo instructor for the Strategic Air Command, United States Air Force. I have been studying judo since 1953. Part of my training was at the famous Kodokan Judo School in Tokyo. I hold the rank of 4th degree black belt, and at the last international championships, I was ranked 5th in the world. Recently, I won for the 3rd time the AAU Overall Judo Championship of the United States. Signed, George Harris. Panel, 3 stalwart gentlemen we give you to start things off tonight, each one claiming, as you heard, to be Sergeant George Harris, Judo Champion. And we will begin this round of questioning tonight with our own judo expert, Tom Poston. Tom?
Where did you get that, Bud? I don't know anything about judo.
Well, you know so much about milking cows, I thought sure you might.
Sergeant Harris, number 1, are you familiar with drill procedure as a sergeant?
Some.
Some? Number 2, how about you?
Enough.
Well, I'll start with you then. Just as a preliminary probing sort of a question, in drill procedure, which foot is the execution signal given on?
On the left.
Number 3, how do you feel about the way those 2 fellows answered that?
I think you were correct. Number 2 was correct.
You think number 2? Number 1, do you agree with that?
Yes.
Number 1, what is the major difference between judo and karate?
Karate is empty-hand fighting. Judo, you use a costume.
Dina?
Sergeant number 1, tell me the Japanese name for the judo costume that number 2 is wearing.
A gi.
Is that the name of the complete outfit or just the jacket?
The complete outfit.
The complete outfit. Sergeant number 2, can you tell me how many different color belts they are? You say you are a black belt. Are there other color belts?
Yes, there is. You start with the white belt. That's a novice. And there are 2 degrees in that. And then you go to the green belt, which is the school belt while you're in training. And then you go to the brown belt. And there are 3 Qs in the brown belt. And then, of course, you go to the black belt. And we speak of dans in the black belt. And you go up to 10. But there's the optional red and white for the 7th and 8th degrees in that, and then the 10th.
Well, that's all we have time for, but a lot of information came out there.
Yes.
Don Ameche.
Number 1, how many kinds of sergeants are there in the Air Force?
4.
Number 2, would you agree with that?
Yes.
Number 3? Yes. 4? Number 2, what are they?
Well, the lowest ranking one would be the staff sergeant, which I happen to be. Mm-hmm. Then you go to tech sergeant.
Well, we don't want to go through this again. Thanks very much. Number 1, who is the chief of the Pacific area?
I don't know.
Air Force Chief. Number 2, would you know?
I don't know.
3?
No.
You wouldn't know? Number 1, who started judo?
Dr. Jigoro Kano.
You agree with that, too?
Yes.
3 also?
He's correct.
Number 2, what?
Kitty.
Number 3, what is the Ginza?
The Ginza is the shopping area of Tokyo.
Number 2, what is the difference between judo and jiu-jitsu?
Well, jiu-jitsu is a much older sport. And
Thank you, number 2. Number 3, what is the ratio in weight? In other words, if you're a judo expert, how much bigger a man can you beat?
Well, the weight is not too important.
It isn't.
No.
But you can beat a very big man if you're an expert and he's not.
Yes, because speed is very, very important.
Speed is most important.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And there's our own particular version of speed right there. With the rapid flashing of that bell, it tells us that our time for questioning is over. So, panel, it is time now to mark your ballots, if you will, without consultation, and vote for number 1, number 2, or number 3. A team of challengers will, of course, receive the usual $250 for every incorrect vote. Everyone voted?
Yep.
We all set? Okay, Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 2 because he was so wonderful with those answers, and even if it isn't the right one, look at the work he's gone to figure all that out, and it means... and this... But don't you see, this means that if I'm wrong, they'll get that much more money. And he deserves it.
Dina, your vote, please.
I voted for number 2 because he seemed to know so much about his subject, and my child has been studying judo and has told me a little bit about it, and this matches.
You may have trouble with discipline in the near future. Don, your vote.
I voted for number 3, I guess primarily because he gave the least answers of anyone. I happen to, I believe I'm correct in saying that there are 5 classes of sergeants. Someone just told me that out of the Pacific. As a matter of fact, Rosie O'Donnell is the chief of the Pacific area, and his sergeant told me that there were 5, so I don't know. I'm a little confused about this whole thing.
I was confused by your question. I didn't hear you say classes. You said how many kinds?
Kinds of
I thought he was
sergeants.
going to say good ones and bad ones, and, you know, reaction to sergeants universally.
Well, as a matter of fact, there probably are more than 5 kinds under that classification, Bud.
Kitty, your vote, please.
I voted for number 3. I'm always told I vote sometimes for the right one for the wrong reason. I didn't ask the others about the Ginza, but he did know that it was a shopping district in Tokyo. And I always thought that judo had to do with being shorter than your opponent, and that would be why he would take it up, because he seemed shorter than the other 2. Number 1's very tall, number 2 seems tall, and I thought that's why he'd take up judo.
Well, all right. Boy, not only the answers to questions, but the reasons are getting long tonight. Finally, the votes are all in. Minds made up. Let's find out now how right or wrong we may be as we discover which one of these gentlemen is the real judo champion. So will the real Sergeant George Harris please stand up? Dear, well done, well done. Number 2, you shared the 2 votes with 2 votes to number 3. What is your real name and what do you really do?
my name is Robert Teague, and I'm a reporter for the New York Times.
And you know your subject. Don, I believe you voted for number 3, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yes, so I'm a little surprised that you didn't recognize him. Number 3, would you tell us your real name and what you really do, please?
My name is Monty Irvin, and I do public relations work for the Ryan Go Beer Company.
For those of you who suffer from short memories, Monty Irvin will always be known as one of the greatest left fielders the New York Giants baseball team ever had. Well, fellas, you did a great job tonight. You sold them right down the river, lock, stock, and barrel. And that means, of course, with $250 for each incorrect answer, that's a total of $1,000 from Anacin. The smiles are getting bigger all the time. And, of course, a gift package of fine products from the makers of Anacin, and thank you for making our evening so bright. Good night to you. Panel, let's meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Marianne Means.
My name is Marianne Means.
My name is Marianne Means.
Once again, panel, you've had a look. Now look at the affidavit and follow along with me, will you? I, Marianne Means, a former model, am now a newspaper woman. I have worked as both copy editor and women's editor, and I covered the last Democratic convention as a feature writer. I also traveled the 1960 campaign trail with both candidates. In less than 4 years as a reporter, I have become the White House correspondent for a major news service. Signed, Marianne Means. Three ladies this time, panel, each one claiming, as you heard, to be Marianne Means, White House correspondent for a news service. And we start this cross-examination with Kitty Carlisle. Kitty?
Thank you, Bud. Number one, who is the managing editor of the New York Times?
I do not know.
Number two?
I do not know.
Number three?
Orville Dreyfus.
Number one, did you meet Mrs. Lodge?
Yes, I did.
Do you know her first name? Number two, can you tell me?
Emily.
Number three, what are the color of her eyes?
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Number one, who is our Secretary of Labor?
The Secretary of Labor.
Number two, can you tell me the name of the Kennedys' youngest child?
John Jr.
Number three, where is your office?
In the White House, in the West.
Where?
In the West Wing.
How do you get to it?
I go through the West Gate.
Number one, how do you get to your office?
Tom Poston.
Oh, it's my turn. Number two, who is Robert Teague?
Robert Teague,
Yes.
the man who was just on.
They listen too, you see. He was the one I voted for in the last...
That's your tough luck.
She hopes you vote as well this time.
Yes, she sure does.
That's a reporter editorializing. Number two, I would like to ask you who Robert Shannon is. Do you happen to know William Shannon?
William Shannon is editor of, I believe, a New York newspaper, but I can't remember which one.
Do you know who the editor of the New York Post is, number three?
She's a female, I'm afraid. I don't recall the name.
Not the publisher, the editor, number three.
No, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Number one, do you happen to know who Marquis Childs is?
Yes, I do. He's a columnist.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dina.
Number two, what side of the White House is the press side? In other words, the press offices?
It's in the West Wing.
In the West Wing. Looking at the White House from Pennsylvania Avenue, is that on the right or the left as you're facing the White House?
It's on the right.
On the right. Number three, can you tell me what the name of Carolyn Kennedy's godmother?
Yes, Lee, I don't know her last name. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Lee?
Lee, I believe is her first name.
Number two, can you tell me the name of Carolyn Kennedy's godmother?
Lee Radswell, Princess Radswell.
Don.
Thank you, Bud. Number two, what was your highest fee as a model?
I didn't model on a freelance basis. I modeled for a company.
Agency. Number three, who's the real head of a newspaper?
Of what?
Of any newspaper, who's the real head?
The publisher.
And what's the next in line?
The managing editor.
Number three, what would be the next in line after the managing editor?
Probably the city editor. It varies in the newspaper.
Number one, who is Bob Considine with at the present time?
Bob Considine is with the Hearst Headline Service.
Number two, does the name Joe Kingsbury Smith mean anything to you?
No, sir.
Three?
Yes, it does.
You may never find out unless I ask you later. It's one of those little mysteries of life we have to contend with on this show. Because time is of so much the essence as we have to get down to the discovery of which one and who is right and who is wrong. So, will you kindly mark your ballots, please? Without consultation, vote for number one, number two, or number three. All set, everyone?
Right.
Tom, for whom this time?
Number three, just because of the clarity of her answers and the frequency of answering correctly, I thought, although I was torn between number two and number three. If it's number one, she's either terribly frightened or didn't know anything about the current news scene.
Dina, your vote, please.
Number three, very much the same reasons as Tom, but also that I felt that anyone who is a news correspondent should know who Kingsbury Smith is.
Huh? Don, which one do you think is the real one?
Yes, I voted for number three also. I guess primarily because of the reasons that Tom and Dina gave, but also that She did know who Joe Kingsbury Smith was. He's the editor of the Journal American. I think his title, is it not? Whichever, what answer yet, I'm sure.
Kitty.
I voted for number 3. I didn't know who Kingsbury Smith was, but number 1 probably is the right one, but she didn't know about Goldberg being the Secretary of Labor. And number 2 said Princess Radziwill, who I think is a sister of Mrs. Kennedy's. And I think number 3 was wrong because I think it's Turner Catledge, who's the managing editor of the New York Times. But I voted for number 3 anyway.
Well, there it is, unanimous this time. We're split before it's unanimous, and we'll find out how right or wrong we are right now as we learn which one of these 3 charming ladies is the real White House correspondent. Will the real Marianne Means please stand up? You look a little blank there, Dina. Anything wrong?
I'm just amazed.
I would like to say in self-defense that I am nervous.
Number 2, would you tell us your real name and what you really do, please?
My name is Frankie Childers. I'm with the United States Mission to the United Nations.
Thank you. Number 3, you got all the votes, and so did very nice favors for your 2 companions there. What is your real name and what do you do?
Diane Chagru, I'm Secretary to the President of Patrick K. Naglawas Advertising Agency.
Thank you. I guess anybody can tell who watches our show that this is a clean sweep again. 4 incorrect votes at $250 each, and again, a grand total of $1,000 from Anacin, and a gift package of fine products from the makers of Anacin. And thank you, ladies, very much for being with us. Good night, and God bless you. Panel, ready for our 3rd team of challengers? Here they come, ready or not.
What is your name, please?
My name is Lenore Broughs.
My name is Lenore Broughs.
My name is Lenore Broughs.
Again, panel, follow along, if you will, please, with your copies of this affidavit. I, Lenore Broughs, am a fire lookout for the United States Forest Service. I am stationed in the Shasta Trinity National Forest. Each spring, I go into the forest and take my post in a lookout tower on a mountaintop. I don't return to civilization until the start of winter lessens the danger of forest fires. During this time, I see no human beings other than an occasional visitor and the men who deliver my mail, food, and water every 2 weeks. In the 15 years I have been a lookout, I have spotted and reported more than 450 forest fires. Signed, Lenore Broughs. Again, 3 ladies, this time claiming to be Lenore Broughs, the fire lookout for forest fires, and we begin this round with Dina Merrill. Dina?
Number 1, where is Mount Shasta?
It's in the northern part of California.
Number 1, when you're up there all these many months, how do you pass your time?
Well, part of the time I'm just looking and watching, but then there are times when I can read. I do whittling, wood carving, knitting, different kinds of things.
Number 2, what kind of communication do you have with the outside world from your tower?
A radio.
You don't have a telephone?
No, I do not have a telephone.
Number 3, the radio, do you talk into the radio?
Well, I pick up the mic and speak into the radio and tell them that I am calling. Sims is calling.
Don, thank you, Bob. Number 1, how high is Mount Shasta?
Oh, over 14,000 feet.
2, do you agree with that?
14,000.
40. Number 3, how far is Shasta from San Francisco?
234 miles.
Number 1, from Portland.
From Portland?
Yes.
More than that. I don't know how much.
Exactly. Number 2, what government division is the Forest Service under?
Department of Agriculture.
Number 3, what training is required for this job?
Well, there's no special training. You take and put an application in and take a test. You have to be interested in the outdoors somewhat. There's no other special training.
Thank you. No.
Kitty.
Well, I would like to say that one of these ladies, single-handed, has exploded the myth that women talk all the time. She goes in the spring and comes out in the winter and doesn't talk to anybody? Number one, who are your occasional visitors?
Well, every 2 weeks...
I know the men, but it says here occasional visitors.
Listen, don't brush them off like that.
Oh, there are visitors, hikers, campers, sometimes groups of boys and girls or other groups.
Thank you. Number two, what is your vision? Is it...
what do you mean?
Well,
How
have you
far
got 20/20 vision or what?
Oh, you have to have good vision for this job.
Number three, when you talk into this microphone, who are you hooked up to?
To the central dispatcher.
Where's that?
Well, that's in Reading.
Reading?
Tom
Yes.
Poston.
Thank you. Number two, there are two unusually tall trees. Do you happen to know the names of the two? Very large, very tall trees.
Pine.
No, I mean the really mammoth. Do you know number one?
Well, redwood is one.
Yes.
And some of the pines, there are pines that are very tall. Sugar pine.
Number three, maybe you know the name of another very, very tall tree. Very big. Comparable to the redwood.
Well, I'm sorry, I guess I
don't know.
Hey, that's all the time we have to climb trees or anything else. And as a matter of fact, I thought somebody was going to ask how many times she had a visit from Smokey Bear up there, but no one did, so we'll let it lie there while you mark your ballots, if you will, please. Without consultation, vote, if you will, for number one, number two, or number three. Everybody set? Tom, you ready?
No,
He's thinking.
yeah.
All right, Thomas, for whom?
I don't know why. I don't have to have a reason every time. In fact, sometimes when I tell you I have a reason, I don't. It's just a guess. And this time I guess number two.
All right, Dina.
Well, I guess number one, because she answered the question about the sequoia tree, the redwood tree, and I think anybody in forestry should know something about trees.
Don, your vote.
I voted for number three, Bud, and I sure wish I had a reason for it, but I haven't. I guess maybe...
we got them all covered.
We got the field covered. We're not going to be blank this time.
Really spread this time. Kitty.
I voted for number one on the basis of their eyesight. Number two wears glasses, and number three squints when she looks at the panel. I think she did. She squinted, yes.
All right, once again, the votes are in. Our minds are made up, and if you're playing along at home with us, as we hope each week that you do, let's find out now how right or wrong we may be as we learn which one of these ladies is the real forest fire lookout. So will the real Lenore Broughs please stand up? Clarify one point. I'm sure she understood when you said about vision that with her glasses she
Yes,
must
of
have
course.
good vision.
I understand. Yes.
Heard a little laugh in the audience when that came up, and I thought it might be misunderstood. Thank you. Number one, would you tell us your real name and what you really do, please?
My name is Catherine Hammett, and I am an executive with the National Girl Scouts.
That accounts for your assimilation of so much knowledge so well. Number three, your real name and what you do, please.
My name is Flora O'Grady, and I've never been to California. And I breed mice for medical research.
What do you know? Incidentally, this might be as good a time as any to remind everyone that a little extra care this summer in whatever forest or woods you may be will make Lenore Broughs' job a whole lot easier and the whole world a lot safer. Well, let's check up on our score here. This time we find that we have exactly 1, 2, 3 incorrect votes. Didn't quite completely fool the panel like the others did. But that at $250 each is a total of $750. Not bad for an evening's play, and I hope you've had just that. That is from Anacin, as well as a gift package of fine products from the makers of Anacin, and we say good night to you, ladies, and thank you for being with us. The question has been asked what news service Marianne Means works for, and it's the Hearst headline service. Hope that clears that up for everyone.
What service was it on?
The Hearst headline service.
Ah.
One of them mentioned that was in connection with Bob Considine. He worked for it, too.
Yeah.
Afraid that's all the time we have for tonight, but I had fun. I hope you did. Good night to you, panel.
Good night,
night,
Bud.
Bud.
Good night.
Bud Collier saying good night from Anacin and reminding you to tell the truth. Good night, everybody.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Whitson, Bill Codman production. To Tell the Truth has been brought to you by Dristan Nasal Mist, the new decongestant spray for relief from miseries of sinus congestion and head cold. Johnny Olson saying good night. This program pre-recorded.